So, welcome back to Loud Pablo Garage YouTube channel. Glad you could join me today. This video, we're going to make some changes to the car. Actually, a really big change. And I'm hesitant to make it, but I know that it's going to make the car more drivable. We may gain some performance, and it's just going to make it a little bit more livable for long trips and things like that. So, as you can tell, I'm sitting back here, and one of my favorite features of this car is this exhaust that I built. It's kind of 917 inspired since it's white. It's just super rowdy. And when I first built it, I had some inserts you could put in it, and it made it a little bit quieter, but it kept burning the packing up of the inserts. The nuts would rattle loose every once in a while, and I'd lose an insert going down the road. So I kind of stopped putting them in. It's been just basically straight through. We've got these little 6-inch header mufflers in mine, and so it is 2 into 1 into 2 with a big cross underneath there. And it sounds good, but it just is really loud going down the road. So I wanted to do something a little bit different, and luckily for me, Brian at Acton Craft, he has developed a new muffler that has bypasses and all kinds of crazy stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to put one of those on this. So this video is not really a review video or a how-to video. This is just going to be like my experience with it from start to finish. So first off, I'll show you guys what we're working with here, and then we'll go over the new muffler. All right, so obviously this is my favorite view of the back of the car, seeing this exhaust hanging out here, seeing the U-pipes coming up. It looks cool. It looks really cool for cars that are following behind me, and it looks great for pictures, but it is not exactly livable for as much as I want to drive this car. We're getting ready to take a over 1,000 mile, 2,000 mile, whatever road trip. We are going to Rensport in Laguna Seca, California. So to make sure that we make it there and not end up deaf, you know, this is just a project that's got to be done. So here's what we've got so far. I need to fix the back floor. It's all cut out right now, but it's a great opportunity to see how this exhaust is built. You just have a little wall through there. So you've got 2 header pipes from the headers that from each side, and then you've got these merge pipes, and this is flanged. This all unbolts from the headers, and then it comes up with a sweeping 90, a little over a 90 actually, 6-inch header mufflers. They're from Speedway. I can't remember what brand they are. And then I did this crossover pipe, and it's fully welded and ported, and like really should flow, and would be great for a high horsepower car to not lose anything. It'd be great for a race car, but you know, this is a street car that looks like a race car. So, and then of course it comes out, and this is all, I think 3-inch is what it is, 3-inch or 3.5-inch, and it was selected just basically because that was the size I could get these mufflers. And I thought these mufflers were going to do a better job than they actually did. I've had them on race cars before, and on a race car it makes a more significant difference than it does on this. And I'm sure it has to do with the resonance and the tone and all that. So that being said, here is what we're working with, and so now I'll show you guys exactly what we're going to be switching over to. All right, guys, here it is. This is the Acton Craft GTK Active Muffler. This muffler was designed by Brian Rash at Acton Craft. He's put a ton of engineering and research and development into this thing. And while it is a little expensive, it's definitely going to be worth it in making this car a lot more usable. Between going on long trips, driving it back and forth to work, just making it more usable, because it's really no fun having these cars if they're just sitting in the garage. So we'll go over this muffler real quick. At least we'll go over what I know about it. Like I said, this is completely just my experience with this and the install and all that. So let's go over all of the features and the build and all that of this muffler. So it is stainless. I'm not sure if it's like a 309, 409, 316L. I'm not really sure what the grade of stainless is. I'm sure I could ask Brian and find out. So it has your inlets here, and ours, for our install where we did V-band flange, you can also get this in an SSI flange, but I don't have SSI headers, and I knew this was going to be a custom install, but you can get it as a V-band so that you can do this as well. So honestly, I think that this muffler is probably going to open up beyond Porsche stuff. It's a good size. I think you could get it to fit on a variety of different cars. You could tuck this thing behind the muffler. You'd have center outlets. I think it'd be a really cool option. As long as somebody wants to spend the money on it, it should work really well. So you've got your inlets that are no, I can talk, I really can. They will be V-band flange for us. And then you have your valve here. So typically your flow path is going to be up through the muffler, and it makes its way through the chambers. I'm not really sure what the inside of this looks like and how it's pathed out the tips. But then with the controls, you'll be able to open. I believe you'll be able to slightly open or fully open. I'm not real sure on that yet. But you'll be able to open up this valve here, which will allow it to bypass the muffler for the most part and just go right out the tips. So, you know, the ideal situation is, you know, you drive to a rally with everything closed up, radio going, just chilling out. And when you get to the rally, you open it up and get just ready to party. So that's that part of it. So, oh, and as you can see, everything is done really, really high quality. We have this this plug. I can't remember what you call these. So they're the weather pack type plugs. And I'll show you guys the electronics in a minute, but everything's just crazy high quality. As you can tell, this is a really well-built muffler. You have the Acton-Craft logo that's here on the bottom, so you slide underneath the car, you see what it is. So these two bolts right here actually unbolt inserts. I haven't taken them out yet. We'll do that a little bit later in the video. But you take this out, and these are ceramic inserts that they change the tone and they change the volume a little bit as well. So you have basically 4 different volumes you can run with this muffler. You can run, you know, fully muffled with ceramics. You can run fully muffled without ceramics, you know, and then straight through ceramics and straight through without ceramics. It seems really tunable. I've watched some of the videos. I'll link some of Brian's drive-by videos on the end of this video, and you guys can see what it sounds like on a variety of 911s. I think that they have Leafgreen Matt's 911, and it's like a 2, I don't even want to quote, it's a 2 something. It's an older 911, original motor, all that good stuff. And then, you know, all the way up to Pablo the Porsche. Yeah, like, you know, that is a rowdy, I think 3.8, and makes a bunch of power and makes all the right noises. So I think there's sound clips uploaded, and we'll link that, and you can see. And then of course, at the end of this video, we're going to do drive-bys. We're going to do the 360 cam on the back, and I'm going to run through all of the different variations, and hopefully it doesn't sound like garbage, because, you know, a Type 4 versus, you know, a 911 flat 6, there's a big difference in those motors and the way they sound and everything. But I think we're going to be all right. At least I know it's going to be much better driving down the road than what we have currently. So that's really what I'm after. All right, so we'll talk real quick about how we're going to connect this to the exhaust. Like I said, this is a V-band flange custom install style that's, you know, you can order from Brian. So he supplied these V-band flanges, nice stainless. I don't see a brand name on them. I'm not sure if he gets them from Vibrant or where. So we've got these, and they'll TIG weld onto the inlets of our muffler, but then we got to figure out how to hook the V-bands to the header. So rather than building a collector, which is completely possible, I just opted to kind of do a quick Google search, and I found some on Speedway Motors. These are stainless. Again, don't know what grade of stainless it is. It's all polished, so it looks nice. The part number for these, so you guys have it, is XFO-CL2S-200-250, and it's called a merge pipe, is what it's listed at in the catalog. And then what this is going to do is we're going to be able to TIG weld that right in there, and then that's going to fit right up to the muffler. And there's a couple of different ways we can do this. I can step up the size of the headers. Phone, I should have muted it. Step up the size of the headers to where it goes in here. Or I can put this in a bandsaw, cut this flat, and then make a flange that hopefully should match up to the flanges on my headers. They're not going to line up perfectly for elevation, so we'll have to figure out that and the tilt of the flange and all that. That's kind of minor details. It's not really that big of a deal if you just work through it. So right now, that is the plan. These, I got 2 of them. They were $24 a piece, so $50 additional to this stuff. So in the grand scheme of things, really isn't anything. And I'll pay $50 to save myself the time of having to make these. So, all right. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was the electronics. And as impressive as this is, whenever I received this stuff, the electronics impressed me even more. You know, manufacturing stuff is difficult, and especially if you're a small shop. And Brian's definitely a small shop. So for him to produce something of this level, it amazes me. It really does. So we'll start, move this out of the way. Everything's packaged really nice. It came in a big box. It with the foam stuff all around everything. We know how UPS and FedEx and everybody treats crap. And I can say that because I worked at FedEx as a package handler while I was in college, and I destroyed so much stuff there. So I know how hard it is, but a lot of stuff gets beat up in shipping. This box was pretty beat up. I was kind of like, oh no, what's this gonna look like? It was great. Everything was perfect. Nothing's out of whack. There's not a scratch on anything. So with that said, you know, everything's packaged nice. You get that box with the electronics in here. And so what we have here is, this is the brain of the muffler, essentially. So we talked about the weather pack plug in here, and that plugs in here. So this is going to go in the back of your car. And I don't know if you guys heard that. There's 2 magnets right there. So you don't even have to build a mounting bracket or drill holes in the car or anything. This is something that is unbelievably easy to install and easily reversible. And I think for a lot of guys, especially in 911s, with the values of 911s nowadays, like, this is super important. We don't have to like cut up the car and modify it to put this in. Of course, I don't mind cutting stuff up, but you know, some of you guys, I completely get it. You don't want to cut up an original car, but you wanted to turn it into a hot rod. So this magnetizes on somewhere near your battery. These, positive and negative to your battery. This doesn't have to be a keyed switch. This can be a full-time power switch from what I understand. I do need to read the installation guide a little bit better. That'll probably happen whenever I run into problems and can't figure something out, and I'll be like, oh, I should have read the instructions. You guys know how that goes. So yeah, so this goes in the back of the car, hooks up to the muffler, hooks up to the battery, and then this goes up front and is wireless. I'm assuming that it's battery powered. I've got to read the instructions about that. So, you know, fancy little brain box mounts up underneath the dash. Here is a toggle button. You have 0 position, 1, 2. Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine that's open, closed. I don't know. We'll read the instructions. But all of this, like this piece looks like it'd be perfect. You just put it right underneath your dash and nobody would ever see it. So completely stock and stealth, which is, again, awesome, especially for guys with a stock style car. You know, this would fit right in, and, you know, nobody would really even know. And you're not destroying anything. You're not cutting holes in dashes. You're not mounting big steel brackets. You know, and to me, that the research and engineering that goes into making a product that bolts in a stock place and you don't destroy anything, while it's not my thing, I appreciate that so much. That's really cool. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this old muffler out of the way so that we can bring the new muffler in and support it and figure out our height. And the bracket, we'll make our muffler bracket to attach it to something. The muffler comes with the bracket to attach it to a 911. So this is obviously not a 911. It's a little different setup. I have a transmission here instead of a motor. So we'll figure this out like kind of as we go. But first things first, get this thing out of here. And I've made everything on this car that I've done is very race car like. You know, as you guys know, my background is in motorsports, between engineering, building, and driving. So everything that I have built on this car is with the purpose of it, you know, making the car stronger and better, handle better, more power, whatever. And also being able to be repaired quickly. That's essential in race cars. Whenever we tear something up racing, you've got to be able to just unbolt it and bolt a new one on and go. So all of this stuff, while I don't plan on tearing anything up, it's nice for just working on, just being able to unbolt all this stuff and drop it out of here. So we're going to get this out of here and get the other one mocked up. So here we go. All right, now that this is out of the way, we've got our new muffler, which is a little bit heavy, a lot heavier than what I had on there. So kind of get an idea of what that's gonna look like. I'm not sure height-wise, would love to put it up high like that, you know, kind of emulate the old exhaust, but gonna make some changes back here while I'm doing this. You know, we've ran for a couple of years now with no back bumper at all. Actually, no inner structure in here at all. If there was ever a rear ending, this would just be an absolute mess. So, you know, as always, I give you guys way too much detail. I'm just trying to think through all this. And so, yeah, I'm going to start stacking some stuff up. This will probably be like a time-lapse thing. And I just want to get the right height. And then we'll, I guess, discuss what I'm thinking when I get that height. All right, here we go. Digging through my stash of metal over there and kind of seeing what I've got to work with, and knowing that I need this thing to be really stiff and rigid because I'm going to bolt from the transaxle to the muffler, and it's going to be about a 4-inch span in between the two. So it needs to be stiff. It needs to be really rigid, and it needs to basically just not bounce or anything. So what I did was I found this piece of 1 by 2 by 8. I'm going to clean it all up. I'm going to hole saw some holes on one side of it. That'll be the spacing of the transmission. And then I'll drill the actual size on the other side, centered on the hole saw holes. That way I can get in there and put the nut and the washer in there with my fingertips. And then I'm going to take a same piece of material and I'm going to put it in the middle, run it at a 90 to come off of it, and that's going to span between the transaxle and the muffler. And then I think I've got some 3/16 or some 1/8 inch plate, carbon plate, and I will make the plate that will attach to the muffler and slot it so that we can have fine adjustments side to side. Hopefully I can get it all on there all level and height and everything that I want. I should be able to, no problem. So we shouldn't need any adjustment there. But the key to this is I get everything cleaned up, get everything drilled out and mocked up before we weld anything, and we'll get it all welded up and built. So use the Eastwood SCT tool to clean everything up, get all the mill scale and rust off everything, and try to make a really nice piece to match the muffler. So here we go. All right guys, so I was in the process of fabricating that. The camera went dead. I had all kinds of things going wrong. I ended up redesigning what I was gonna do. What I wanted to do wasn't working out real well for me. So I'll show you real quick what I've got done. Getting ready to do final adjustments and get it welded. The camera's charged up a little bit, so here, I'll just show you what I'm doing right now. All right, so as you can see, I stuck with, you know, the one bar going across, tying to the transaxle. It's bolted in through those back bolts of the transaxle that are existing. But rather than hole sawing, I just did like 65-degree angles here just to gain access to it. And I think it works out a little bit better. I was having some issues getting the hole saws centered right. So, and then what I've done is I've built this steel plate. This is like 1/8 inch, 1/8 by 3, I think, bar stock. So cut slots in it, so it's adjustable. So I can get this thing on here, and then I can adjust side to side on these. I made these big so that I can adjust, I can level it. So if the body's not perfectly square with the transmission and vice versa, like, you know, I can get this thing kind of dialed in and leveled. So right now I need to get this thing all centered up, make sure it's the height, everything where I want it to live, and then I'll drag the welder over here and give that plate a couple of tacks. Then I'll take it back over to the table and TIG weld it out so it looks nice and it's good and strong. May end up putting some gussets on it, don't know. But yep, so that's where I'm at. Alright, so I've TIG welded all of this so far, and I'm just going to go ahead and keep up with the theme of doing so. I've got everything leveled up and square. I've got these magnets holding it all in place. It's holding in place pretty good. I'm going to give it some really good tacks and then pull it off and take it over to the table and weld it so I can really get some nice welds on it. Another little kind of tip that I like to do, so this TIG torch has got a trigger, on and off trigger on it, as opposed to the foot pedal that you see everybody use. I worked in pipe fitting for several years, and the foot pedals are just not realistic. Most of the time you're using scratch start machines anyways, but this trigger is nice for stuff like this. I can have my feet off the ground or whatever, and I can be in weird positions and just use it like a MIG welder essentially. I'll just push the button to go. Hit it, it stays on, hold the button down to weld. They have some that you tap it once and it stays on, and you tap it again, it shuts off, whatever. This is just an on-off, just like a MIG. But it works really nice for situations like this, where you're gonna be standing on your head and all that. Of course, a good hood. I trashed my real good hood about a month ago. Bought this cheap Lincoln hood, and the cheap Lincoln hood has actually been a better hood than the other one. So no big deal. Get some tacks on this and we'll take it over to the table. Put a tack on it, check the level, make sure everything's still good. Yep, everything looks square still. And remember, we've got some adjustment just in case it moves a little bit. All right, back over to the table. I've clipped my wire so it's nice and clean. I've used the Eastwood tungsten grinder. I've got a nice clean sharp tip. I have the part here on the table and I've got the two magnets holding it at like a 45-degree angle so I can just run my TIG torch kind of in there flat and get a nice even weld. It's just better for me so I'm not down here twisting my neck and everything. I can just look at it straight on. It's super comfortable. The biggest thing to remember when you're TIG welding is get comfortable. I don't know how many times I've watched guys trying to weld around a piece of pipe and a roll cage or even just a flat piece, and they get out of shape and uncomfortable and all messed up, and the weld looks really messed up because they were all bound up. It's all about being relaxed, being comfortable. There's a rhythm, you know, there's just this flow to it. It's a very relaxing thing once you get good at it. It's very frustrating when you're not good at it. You're sticking your tungsten in the metal, you're sticking your fill rod to your tungsten. Yeah, I went through all that when I learned. It's just something that you get better over time the more practice you get. And that's all you can do is just get yourself a TIG, bunch of fill rod, bunch of scrap metal, make sure everything's really clean, weld up stuff. All right, so we're gonna weld this up. All right, guys, got it all welded up, got it put on, leveled up. There's lots of adjustment, really like it. I was able to get it like dead nuts level, assuming the car is level on the jack stands, which I put the level on the car a couple places and it looked good. But I've got lots of adjustments so I can get it set down on the ground and, you know, tweak it as we go. So I'll show you, here's what it looks like from the back. Nice and level, even with the body. I can't tell. I know the tips are pointed down slightly, but I don't know if it's too much or what. Man, it just seems like it really sticks out there, but I think it's gonna look good once you get, once I get some sort of a bumper roll pan thing. The tips are gonna stick out a little bit, but it, you know, is what it is. It'll look cool. But look in here, get some light going. And, you know, the bracket turned out really nice. So, you know, we've got this slotted here. Get some light on there. So those are slotted. So it'll move side to side. It actually will also move up and down a little bit. I need to put some flat washers on there just to put some more pressure, even pressure, so those lock washers aren't just digging in. And then, of course, we've got the 45s so we can get to our bolts that bolt it to the transaxle. Everything's super rigid and stiff, and I think it's going to work really well. I'm sure that Brian has made sure that that plate that they've welded it on is proper thickness and all that stuff, and it maybe even gusseted on the inside so that it can take the weight of the bumper, the muffler. But I mean, there's a little bit of, you know, movement, but that's all in the muffler and everything. And then once we get these hooked up, it should work out really well. And I think that's it for tonight for me. And I've got 4% battery on the camera, so it's about to die. And we'll pick back up with this. We start connecting this stuff later this week.